Chris Beecham, wow, these Emmys are over, and out of the 26 races that were decided tonight at the Nokia Theater, 6 at least were jaw-droppers that we didn't see coming at all, and I'm talking about that sweep by Sherlock that took out Billy Bob Thornton and took out Mark Ruffalo. This is Benedict Cumberbatch winning. Martin Freeman winning over Matt Bomer. Just because he's got this rather stoic performance, as does Cumberbatch. The show itself is kind of exalts in the fact that it's kind of withdrawn, while everything else is so over the top and flamboyant. Before we get to the Breaking Bad stuff and the rest of it, what the hell happened with Sherlock? I want to start there.
Well, after last week's Creative Arts, several people were saying in their forums and even among the editors, because it won several at the Creative Arts out of nowhere. Yeah. And we all thought, well, is something going on here? Is that going to carry over to next week? And then we all remembered, Normal Heart was not going to win a lot of Creative Arts awards. It's not like Behind the Candelabra, very flashy and, costumes and all these kind of things. So we just kind of thought that was just, they're kind of making up maybe for the past, and Sherlock's going to do well Creative Arts, but not too well. I do know some people that thought Sherlock could take that writing win tonight, because several British productions. Remember The Hour shocked with a writing win a year or two ago. Downton Abbey won for writing 3 or 4 years ago in this category. So anyway, people thought it might win for writing, but nothing else.
But The Normal Heart seemed like the perfect made for Emmy project, of course, in terms of its writing. Everybody thought one guaranteed win would be Larry Kramer up there for writing, and to lose to Sherlock was amazing. We know that the Emmy voters often like things with heart to it, and so we had the big bombastic performances full of heart from Julia Roberts, from Matt Bomer, from Mark Ruffalo, and I thought all 3 of them were going to prevail, and for all 3 of them to be shut out by rather stoic performances. Shocking, because that's not typical of Emmys. But you have a theory about how Martin Freeman pulled it out. Tell us about that, because I think you're onto something here.
Well, remember in the movie mini categories, of course the movies are seen as a whole anyway. They're usually just 2 hours or so. But the mini series, they don't submit episodes like you do in drama and comedy, and because Colin Hanks was nominated as a supporting actor, Martin Freeman was seen by anybody that watched all of Colin Hanks' performance on all 10 hours of Fargo.
Isn't that something? I'm sure you're right. Now, by the way,
but that seems.
The minute you said it before we started up here, Chris, you deserve 3 big shout-outs and huzzas tonight because you advised 3 stars here on their Emmy submissions, and they all won. Ty Burrell, Jim Parsons, Allison Janney all sought your input, as many stars do every year. Give us a little shading and background about all that. It's okay now that they've won to discuss all this. It might have been embarrassing beforehand, but why did you pick what you picked?
Well, let me not take too much credit because I helped about 15 people, so 3 out of 15. I guess that's not a bad batting average. For Ty Burrell, we just looked at several things. I know he gets advice from a lot of different people. He even told us on the chat we did recently, when it came down to this one, and he was telling his wife that he might choose this one, which was the episode where he does the performance on stage at the Realtors banquet, and he's in a dress for a minute. He said it was like one of the few episodes she hadn't even watched yet. So she sat down and watched it, and she liked it too. But I liked it because of the performance angle. I liked it because he was in drag for a minute or so, and even beyond all that, though, that's the very funny aspect of it. I loved it because at the end, he's got I don't remember what it was, a broken ankle or whatever. He's laying on the floor. One of the realtors is holding him up a little bit, and his daughter, who he thinks pays no attention in the world to him, jumps up on stage to accept his award, and he's just a beaming father. And it's just such a sentimental ending to that episode. I thought, boy, that's got a lot of heart to it.
I didn't like Jim Parsons' episode at all. He has frequently done one for a drunk episode. This one, he's not Well, he does make the drunk calls to Hawking, but I just didn't see this coming. I thought there was the Gervais performance that was so clearly a performance, you know, a big dramatic thing, not necessarily dramatic, had a lot of comedic elements too. I thought Parsons was lightweight. I thought that last year too, and of course I was wrong. Is Parsons just unbeatable, or was there something about that episode that I just don't see?
Well, we looked at, I think, 3 or 4 for him, and a lot of people wanted him to do a Thanksgiving episode, but I just thought it was way too ensemble-y, and it did. He gets a little drunk in that one too. Voters that see him every year are going to think he gets drunk all the time, but it's just like once a season for the Emmys. But in that particular one, I liked it because he's very distraught. I mean, he's been working on string theory as part of his job for years and years and years, and he's starting to think that it is a big waste of time. So he just doesn't know what to do with himself anymore. And the big joke in the thing is he thinks geology is a big joke in the world of science. And at one point he wakes up with no clothes on in bed, and he's got a geology book under his arm, and he treats it like somebody you went to bed with the night before, and it's very, very funny scene. And at the end, he does the drunk phone calls to Stephen Hawking on his answering machine. I thought it was a very funny episode. I thought Ricky Gervais would win once I saw Ricky's episode, though.
Yeah. So did we learn anything about episodes? Because we saw tonight some wins that did not line up with episode strength. Now, you just explained the Martin Freeman thing. It's not an episode, but it was a muted performance that somehow won. How the hell did Benedict Cumberbatch beat Billy Bob Thornton and Mark Ruffalo?
I don't know. I told you a few weeks ago, and I have no idea if this has any bearing whatsoever, but just in the world of entertainment, right now, the two most searched and researched actors online in the world, not talking about actresses, but actors, are Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. Their popularity is through the roof. And what is so weird, though, it's not like the Oscars where you get sweeps but from one body. The Benedict group was a different group that voted for Martin's, and a different group of writers voted for Sherlock and Writing, and very strange that several groups all thought that Sherlock was the best of the year.
Chris, you are the keeper of Emmy history. You have all these facts up in your head. I used to be able to do that too. Back in my whippersnapper days. I'm an old man now.
You gave me like a Viking pinch at one point when I saw you, and you just passed all of that trivia stuff along to me.
Okay, I'm glad you caught it. Put the win of Breaking Bad in perspective for us, because we know that it's two things. It's very rare. Matter of fact, in the past 50 years, only one departing show that was off the airways won Best Drama Series again, and that was, of course, The Sopranos. But it's very rare, given the way the Emmys work with judging panels that are individual little nation states, and the voters in one seldom vote in the other categories, to see sweeps. And tonight we saw Breaking Bad win series, we saw it win writing, we saw it win 3 acting awards. That's extremely rare. Has it ever happened that we've seen that many high-up categories go to one show on the drama side?
West Wing would have won, like, one year, I don't remember the exact pairing, but probably both supportings and Allison Janney. The year that Allison moved into lead, I know Stockard Channing won, and I think one of the guys won. It didn't typically win writing, but that might be close. And, of course, it would have won a series award that year.
Okay, so it's not unprecedented. I saw your buddy Allison Janney last night at the Showtime Emmy party, and I told her that, if you win again, and of course we knew she would, that episode of Mom was so dynamic, that she would be tied for the third rank of the biggest winners in Emmy history with Carol Burnett and Art Carney and Tyne Daly and all of that. She was really wild. But now in her case, she had narrowed her selection down to 2 and then asked your help?
They had pretty much narrowed down to 2. I believe they even aired back-to-back last November or so. And in this one just had more. The other one had a little more sorrow to it. This one had more just physical comedy. She thinks she might be going to have another baby at her age, which is crazy. But it turns out she's in menopause, which makes her just go off the charts. And she's in every single kind of mood you can be in this episode. And at one point, the boyfriend of her granddaughter, that couple's having a baby, the parents of this boy come over, and they're just, he's a pastor,
a preacher,
and
yeah.
they are very, very strict, and she gives them what for in that episode. And at one point, she's singing Son of a Preacher Man to him. I mean, it's just totally different than you've ever seen Allison Janney if you're like a West Wing fan, or, you know, a fan of her work in movies and stuff. So I think that really, really helped her. Very over the top.
Yeah, very over the top. I could tell it was an Emmy-winning thing the minute I saw it there. Let's bring in our other editors, Riley Chow, Charlie Bright, if you're there. Daniel, if you're there. Daniel's, I think, still writing up his review of the telecast. Anytime you want, click on these links and join us here for the discussion. Chris, True Detective only won one Emmy tonight. What happened?
Well, I thought McConaughey was going to win, but I thought the only other win they had kind of in the bag was directing, and they did win directing. I was really happy to see that. That was the episode with a really long tracking shot, very long, extended section of that particular episode. So I was really happy it did that. I said from the beginning that this show, it did not belong in drama. It belonged in movie mini, and it probably would have won. I know Matthew McConaughey would have beaten Benedict Cumberbatch. There's no question about that, and it probably would have won some other awards.
In our chat room, PJ Edwards is saying Orange is the New Black should go to drama next year. Well, considering they let Shameless move around, do you think Orange should do that or stay where it's at? What happened to Orange? It's the most talked about show on all Hollywood right now, and it got shut out tonight, didn't it?
Well, they won 3 last week, and unfortunately, I said in a post 3 or 4 days ago I didn't think it was going to win anything tonight, and it turned out that it did not. I really felt like its best chances were maybe like directing or writing, and I don't think they're going to allow that kind of movement just on a regular basis. I think Shameless was a very unusual situation where the only thing it had ever been up for was guest actress. Look at Charlie.
Charlie, are you having a bad night there, baby?
Is it over? I had the strangest dream. Please go on, Chris. I'm sorry. I just had to.
No, that's okay. I just don't think they're going to allow Orange to move. I mean, it was up for comedy series, comedy actors, comedy supporting actors, you know, directing, writing. Shameless was a whole different situation.
Netflix won nothing tonight, did it, Charlie? Nothing, right?
Not that I can think of. House of Cards won nothing, and Orange is the New Black won nothing. So yeah.
Wow.
And Ricky Gervais didn't win.
Yeah, and Ricky didn't win either.
Oh God, I felt so bad about that. We had his hopes up so high.
And there was evidence to it. I mean, there was real evidence to it, and I mean, I really think that there was probably one thing that also factored into that was that some of the voters probably didn't know how to react to Ricky's character, to the character of Derek.
Right.
It can be. I know a lot of people. And I have seen emotions on this show spread all over the map, mainly because they don't know how to approach the character. Are they laughing with him? Are they laughing at him? And Ricky has said himself that the character is not in any way developmentally disabled or anything like that, but it just sometimes comes across like that might be something there.
Okay, that's a good point. Charlie, I have this question for you.
Go ahead.
And it's the same question we belabor every year. Do they watch the episodes? Don't they watch the episodes? Now, what we learned tonight was with the Bryan Cranston win that the only conceivable thing that could take down Matthew McConaughey, king of all kudos this year in Hollywood, Oscar, SAG, Golden Globe, everything. He just wins those 2 TV Critics Awards for television for True Detective. He comes in here invincible in an episode where he's nominated against the co-star, so he has 2 submissions. He plays 2 different versions of himself. He has a crime scene. I mean, my God, he had absolutely everything stacked in his favor, except he had the misfortune of being up against Bryan Cranston, of course. Cranston's episode, the Ozymandias thing, of course, was the greatest. his greatest performance in the greatest episode of one of TV's greatest shows. So anyway, but the point is that performance won legitimately for Cranston. So why couldn't Gervais win? Other than I like your theory about the off-putting thing, but that was clearly, of the 6 episodes, one just jumps out and slaps you in the face. Were there any other examples tonight of that, of one obvious?
Let me see
Bomer.
here.
Matt Bomer,
the Matt
yes.
Bomer thing. I mean, that just had me yelling at the television, going, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Matt
just all
Bomer
the
and
movie
Emmy were the 2 biggest locks of the night.
I mean, I was looking back at my predictions, and I had where I didn't, in comedy and drama, where I didn't have first place predictions. A lot of them were second place predictions, so I knew I was on the right track there. But then Movie Mini screwed me up completely. I mean,
Well, they did everybody. Don't. I mean, it didn't. If there was anybody that got even half of those right, they ought to be commended and put on your staff, Tom.
I mean, the Matt Bomer one still beleaguers me, because that was supposed to be the sure thing, or as close as we can get to a sure thing. It's so crazy.
Did you see his face too? I mean, the 2 saddest faces all night were Ryan Murphy and Matt Bomer's faces when they lost. I mean, they soldiered through the moment, but boy, you could see the heartache.
Felt bad for Larry Kramer when they showed him. Was he in his seat when his category? Or did they have it? Because I think they had him off stage because he was walking with the cane, and I think they might have had him backstage in case he won.
Yeah,
and so
and he was very fragile tonight because he had that scarf on when it won.
Well, he's been in bad health. His health's been declining for the past couple of months. I didn't know if he was going to be there, and so when I saw that he was there, I was like, oh, I really hope he wins, because this would be really moving. And he did it, and I felt so bad for him.
I know.
But it was.
What was so funny in my house when the Martin Freeman thing happened? I'm watching the TV, but sometimes you're not. I mean, I was paying attention, but. They said Martin Freeman, and his picture was up there because he wasn't there live, and I thought, oh, cool, Martin Freeman won, thinking lead actor, and then I went, wait, that was supporting. What?
I was jokingly thinking I wanted to send an email to you guys after Sherlock won writing, and then Kathy Bates surprised with her win for American Horror Story and supporting actors. I wanted to send an email to you guys jokingly saying, ooh, Matt Bomer better watch out, and ooh, look at what happened there.
But look what that category had 4 normal heart guys, and it had Freeman in 2 different productions, Fargo and Sherlock.
Yeah.
So you can almost kind of see how the votes split for that, but still there's one performance that towers over all others in that race. And so
usually when if you have multiple people from a project and one performance does stand out, that one will win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's just... I'm going to go over... let me see. I was going to
I sent a message to Tom after a few minutes after all that. Well, after, I think, Normal Heart won, I said... there's no way in the world Ryan Murphy thought when the night began that he would have 2 acting wins, but they would not be for Normal Heart. They'd be for American Horror Story.
Yeah, that's just that is so bizarre that would happen. I'm looking at some of the other wins. I can't find any other blatant wins where you would go by the episode. Still, the Ty Burrell one really shocks me because I thought that Jesse Tyler Ferguson had comedy and the emotional oomph, and also when you put that together with also Tony Hale's performance, he was the one I was really worried about because I was fairly confident with Jesse Tyler Ferguson, but I knew Tony Hale was a really big threat, and so I was actually expecting right before the envelope was open, I was expecting to hear Tony Hale's name called.
I was too.
Yeah,
but I understood. I
understood that. Stand up and applaud for Ty Burrell because I was the only one in the world that had that one.
Yeah, I had it for a while, then I stupidly ditched it.
Yeah,
I almost changed it today, though. We talked about that on the pre-show. I had 5 categories that I'd either changed today or was thinking about still changing.
How the hell did Sarah Silverman, the least funny, talented person in Hollywood, beat for variety special writing Billy Crystal's 700 Sundays, which is a masterpiece?
Billy Crystal
and on and on and on. How did that happen?
Billy Crystal was nominated with a co-writer, and I think that may have been the poison touch here, because a lot of times, ever since they split this up into series and special, a lot of times with special they will go with a comedy special that's written by the one comedian doing their show. The past 2 years,
Brilliant.
this has been won by Louis C.K. And that's actually why I love that they broke these categories up, because now it gives comedians who do these specials, it gives them a chance to shine. Eddie Izzard pulled off a huge shock in this category. What was it? 14 years ago when he won for Dress to Kill, and he also won the individual performance award over Cher, and Cher was visibly pissed at that awards ceremony. That was great.
I vividly remember that.
But so they do like comedians who do their own specials, and the Emmys are a fan of Sarah Silverman. I mean, she's won the song category for her song "I'm Fucking Mac Damon." She was nominated she surprised a lot of us when she was nominated in 2009 for lead actress in a comedy series. She is really well liked by the Emmy voters.
I'll never forget, Chris, the night I introduced you to her at the Critics' Choice Awards. You were a fan, and I've had nothing but bad run-ins with her. I've never seen her make a joke that's genuinely funny. She talks about her snatch, and she thinks that's hilarious, but she doesn't give it any. And I think she's one of the most overrated hacks in Hollywood, right? And so Chris and I were at the Critics' Choice Awards. It was the first time he was ever on a red carpet. And here she comes, and Chris was like, oh boy, I really love Sarah. And remember, Chris, she ripped your head off. She wasn't even funny, and you were devastated as she strode away, right?
Well, I did say something, my humor is very dry, and I just said something like, well, I mean, I was interviewing her. It wasn't like she was just passing by, and I said, are you up for something tonight? And she about bit my head off, and that was the end of that relationship.
And I turned to you and said, told ya!
I was just joking. I mean, I knew she was a presenter, but come on. It was a film award.
Right.
It's just, we always try to deconstruct these things, and some of them we can explain. Can we talk about supporting actress in a miniseries or movie, because that one's still boggling me. The Kathy Bates win, especially because because we talked about this, they really didn't know after halfway through the series, they didn't know what to do with their character.
They never knew what to do with that character.
And it was great. I loved her line in the second episode when she looks at the picture of Barack Obama as president. She said, someone told me that. And she says, that Negro is president of the United States of America. And I was just like, love this. It was fun to watch for the first couple of episodes, but when they didn't really know what to do, it just kind of lost all its oomph. And I don't think they must have not watched past maybe the third or fourth episode.
Yes, I think that's probably true.
Oh, in the chat room, I do want to give credit to Tony, who goes by Opera Junkie. He's just making a comment here, and I'm reminded, way back in November when that Allison Janney episode aired of Mom, he wrote a story for Gold Derby about, hey, Allison Janney, you got your Emmy episode.
That's right.
And I went back to that when I did my interview.
Way to go, Tony. Love it.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, there were some records tonight. We did some stories. You can read them on the homepage. But Jim Parsons is now tied for the record all time for Best Comedy Actor at 4. Get this list now. Carol O'Connor, Michael J. Fox, and Kelsey Grammer.
Wow. And
his show has 3 more years to go, at least.
And
he's going to be up most of that time, if not all of that time. Julia Louis-Dreyfus wins 3 straight. That hasn't happened in her category since Helen Hunt and then Candice Bergen right before that. We talked about Allison Janney. What did she say last night when you were telling her about the next getting that 6th?
Right, I ran into her at the Showtime Emmy party, and was telling her, that she would be in that pantheon, and she seemed generally startled. And then she's all these stars. You've seen it. I'm talking to you. I'm addressing our viewers here. You've seen it when we introduce stars like Julie Louis-Dreyfus, who asks me and Chris, how many more she needs to set a record. They're all very competitive, right? So the first thing out of her mouth was not like oh, isn't that interesting or whatever, or who am I tied with? Who's ahead of me? Who do I have to beat? Who do I have to take down, in other words, to win this? It's hilarious. So I said, well, Cloris Leachman's at number 1 with 8. She goes, stop right there. She pulls out her smartphone, and she's was at an event the previous night or 2 nights ago with Janney, and I mean with Cloris, and they're necking and kissing, really going at it in this thing. I mean, really going at it. It was pretty shocking, considering Cloris is 80-something. She might have a heart attack. But so it was very, very amusing. But then she wanted to know who was in second and who was all of that. It was fascinating. And then I told her, I said, well, if you want to win those other, we've just come up with a new formula recently about speeches, and we went into the whole Women of Kumar thing with West Wing and how her performance was 5 seconds and she won anyway. But it was a lot of fun. We were over at the Sunset Tower Hotel on Sunset Boulevard, right about a half a block away from that shooting last night for Chris Brown's party.
Similar with her. I mean, talk about Parsons having time left. Mom was in its first year, and Masters was in its first year, and she's already guest starred on Masters again for this second season. So, I mean, getting to 7 or 8, which 8 would be the max. I mean, that's the record. I mean, that's not unreasonable anymore.
And plus, she's fairly young. How old is she? She's like in her late 40s, early 50s.
No, she's around 54, 55 range.
Well, first of all, which my roommate Megan could not help but saying when she saw Allison Janney up on that stage, she went, "Damn, she looks good." But I just love how she was like, she had her legs. I kept on going, can the camera go back down to her legs? I think we need to see that. That's just amazing right there. But she's fairly young, so she has plenty of more time to perhaps not just match that record, even top it.
But I don't want her to. Cloris Leachman is an Oscar winner. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore, Ed Asner. Yeah, and it's Cloris. Allison Janney does not belong in that league. No way.
Well, does Jim belong with Grammer and O'Connor and Fox?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. What about Modern Family with Frasier? Now that's
no. Come on. No, I mean, Frasier is a massively written, brilliant show on so many levels, as was Cheers and all those shows. Come on, Modern Family is not that good. Charlie, am I right or wrong?
I think Modern Family, I don't know if I would put it on the same level as, Cheers and MASH and All in the Family or Frasier. And I do love Frasier mainly for making fun of Frasier because it is so snobby. I mean, my favorite Frasier reference was on Family Guy when Peter's watching Frasier and David Hyde Pierce says, Frasier, you're so corpulent that when you sit around the magnificently appointed Tuscan villa, you sit around the magnificently appointed Tuscan villa. It's just one of my favorite lines of all time. But I can see it being, important and a culturally relevant show. Maybe if it had lost maybe, the 3rd and 4th year and come back and won again this year, because it did have a pretty good season this year, I would be much more willing to say, yeah, it's up there. But, the first 5 seasons in a row, it's a lot to swallow.
But what's going to take it down? I mean, it really has had so little competition that actually could beat it all 5 years that I don't know where that show's coming from. It's not going to be one of these 1-hour dramedies, I'm telling you. I've been saying that about Orange for weeks, is that it would fly against everything that we've ever known about Emmy history if it were to win comedy.
Well, it's, apparently there's some sort of clown car outside Tom's apartment, but
do you know what that is? Let me tell you what that is. This is a little bit of local color. I live in Hollywood. I live, matter of fact, just a few blocks from the Kodak Theater, but there are a lot of immigrant families in this apartment complex where I live. It's like half aspiring young actors, and they're all reading their scripts by the pool. It's hilarious. The other half are Hispanic families, so they speak Spanish, etc. And every night, this little cart goes by with the frozen ices, these kind of popsicle things, and he takes this wind horn thing, beep beep, and the little children. It's 9 o'clock here now in Los Angeles. Before they go to bed, they run out, and mommy and daddy give them their little money, and they all stand out on the curb. It's adorable. They get their little ices, and they're all so happy, and then they go to bed. It's a neighborhood ritual that you
I can't believe you're talking to us, and that guy's standing out there in his cart right now, Tom. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Modern Family. Bryan Cranston, all-time record now with Dennis Franz.
That's a worthy one. I mean, when we were talking about that, the thing I kept thinking to myself was, Walter White, I think, is on par with Detective Sipowicz. I think it's right on the level, possibly.
Oh, I think he's way over that. I mean, quite honestly, nobody even remembers NYPD Blue.
Yeah.
It doesn't air in reruns. It's not in syndication. It's not something anybody ever talks about.
Riley Chow, are you out there? Join us. I don't know if you heard our shout out the last time, or Daniel. We sent you the links to join the chat. If so, come on in. No.
I mean, it's a deserved win. And the Emmys are, I love that they just totally embraced the show this year. I mean, last year they had the 2 awards during the main ceremony. They had the 1 editing win, but this year it was just a total love fest because, and I said this last year, the Emmys made this show. The Emmys made Breaking Bad. They were the first ones to put it on the map. They were rewarding it before the Golden Globes even started nominating it, but they took like until 3 years into its run to nominate it, and they were rewarding it before SAG nominated it. The Emmys, which usually are behind on the cool meter, they saw the potential in this one, and they gave it, and they rewarded it every year it was eligible in some form or another.
Yeah, but they didn't warm up very much early on. I mean, all they really had was Bryan Cranston that first year. Because Aaron Paul wasn't nominated, Anna Gunn wasn't, Breaking Bad, the show wasn't.
Well, from the second season on, it was nominated for drama series, and that's when Aaron Paul got in too. And the first season, it did get into directing, and it did win an editing award as well. So, I mean,
they were the first in some way, but we were about to talk about this, I think, when you joined. It's a very rare show, though. Sopranos did this in a way, but they really took off right away with acting wins, at least for Edie Falco. And that is a show. Most shows in the Emmy world come out blazing their first year, 2 years, 3 years, and then they start crumbling away in terms of support.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a show that really gathered steam every single year.
By the way, in the chat room, they're asking about Marcus. Thank you for that. Marcus and Ralph are both back in the press room at the Nokia. The Wi-Fi has been terrible there all night, so they've not been able to file their stories and photos and things. So they've been disconnected with us. They've been trying to send us things on their smartphones. They got quite a workout. Marcus did on the red carpet. But what they're doing is they're trying to outweight everybody in the press room so that the others leave, and then what happens is, I've done this myself, where these various workstations open up with Ethernet. They can get on and then finish their job. So that's why you haven't seen Marcus or Ralph here on this webcam. Hey, Daniel.
Hello.
All right, so we'll stop blabbing. You give us the view from your mountaintop.
The view was pretty good at the end there. I was really sort of dispirited, not necessarily with the quality of the winners, but like by the time movie mini actor rolled around and movie mini actress, I had gotten like one category right, and then Fargo won, and I started doing better. So I should be right around average when the scores come in.
Wow, I had a terrible night in terms of score. You did pretty well, Chris, right?
16 out of 29 if you count last week's guest.
Really? That's pretty damn good.
55%. I think, with the movies, I think killed everybody, so I don't. It's okay when you lose a category if everybody else is losing that category, just in terms of overalls. But when you miss one that's like, it was not 50-50, but roughly 50-50 Cranston McConaughey. When you fall on the wrong side of one of those, like I did, it can really hurt.
What else, Daniel?
Well, I was really excited by the drama winners, just because after the comedy just destroyed me. I got, I think, just 2 right. I got Allison Janney in Modern Family for best comedy, and then I got everything but best drama actor for on the drama side. So I guess it's a comedy thing. Comedy is so subjective. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus again had a great Emmy speech, as I've mentioned before. Her speeches. I'm always happy to see her win because her speeches make me laugh more than Veep does.
Well, how about her coming out with Cranston? That was a great presentation.
That was beautiful.
Great. Hold on, Clark Gable. That was great.
Oh God, they need to host something. They need to host something together. That would be wonderful.
After their video with the Academy, I'm surprised Aaron Paul didn't join them in some way.
Yeah, well, I think he was getting high. There was a lot of people in the forums going, "Is he high?" I mean, he's not. He wasn't. He was just feeling deeply about all this stuff and not expressing himself best. I kind of felt bad for him. He kind of just blundered his way through the speech. But look, this is, if you're Aaron Paul, this is probably going to be, how often you get a series like this again? It's even if he has great work from here on, it's downhill no matter what it is. So this was a peak moment of his, and he was trying to seize it, and he was overwhelmed by the moment and flustered.
I think he usually knows his history too. I bet he knew that this was a record-setting moment for him. That nobody's ever won 3 times in that category.
Yeah.
And to do it at such a young age is that's what I think is so surprising, is that he's been able to do it at such a young age. I think that's just amazing.
We've had at Gold Derby a very special relationship with Aaron, by the way, through the years. When I was at the LA Times and we first started doing these webcams, I was the very first journalist ever to ask him to do one, and he was like, "What? We were using Uvu back then, remember?" And he was very startled, and he didn't want to do it, and then he did it, and then he liked it, and then apparently I was the first journalist, and not only was it a webcam, but I was the first journalist ever to interview him about awards, because he just didn't think he was in the running. And then we did a Q&A that I hosted at I forget, one of the guilds that first year too, and he was impressed that he was getting all this awards attention from the LA Times envelope Gold Derby. Anyway, flash forward through the years, whenever we would run into him, he would say Gold Derby is his special little lucky charm, right? And then when Gold Derby relaunched in the year 2010, and we had a big party over at the Hollywood Museum, Aaron was the first one there. He sat at the head table. He was opening everybody's champagne. And he was such a great, trooper there to be for us. But this special moment when we relaunched, it was very touching. We had other celebrities there, like Armie Hammer and others. Matter of fact, Robert Morris was our MC that night for Mad Men, and he was a little crazy. But Aaron it was just really, really great to have him there. Anyway, thought I'd give you that.
I think he's such a young age. He's actually at the perfect age. Some really strong producer, Matt Weiner for his next show, or whoever it is going to line him up to be the lead in some really good drama on TV.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Daniel, excuse me, Chris. Daniel, how did Sherlock pull off all these wins? How did it do it?
I honestly don't know. Best movie mini writing, I can sort of see how that happened, because
how over the normal heart? Give me a break.
Surprising, but clearly the writing branch has proved that they're Anglophiles. Chris mentioned it earlier. They gave it to The Hour last year, even though they had Behind the Candelabra was winning everything. They gave it to Downton Abbey. They gave it to Prime Suspect, the last one with Helen Mirren, even though that didn't win anything else but for Helen Mirren in directing.
Richard Curtis.
Yeah, Richard Curtis also, the girl in the cafe. So, in this category in the future, and I know it's sort of dubious because we thought speeches were the big deal this year, and it didn't turn out to be the case necessarily. But when you're dealing with the writing branch, especially in this movie miniseries category, watch out for the British accents.
Yeah.
They make all writing sound better.
Brad Pitt tonight wins. He has produced in 1 year the best film in theaters and the best film on TV. So he's got an Oscar and an Emmy all within a few months period.
Do you think if you're Brad Pitt and you look inside, once you get over that you have Angelina Jolie in your bed next to you, and you see that you have an Oscar and an Emmy and that they're both for producing, do you think to yourself, is Hollywood telling me to stay out of the camera from now on?
It's interesting you say that, because it's a common thing in Hollywood that on-air famous people are plagued by that. I'll give you an example. Ryan Seacrest is very upset that he hasn't won for hosting American Idol, etc. But he has a producing Emmy, and it's like, who cares? You know, all right, I got to. But it just, and I said, Ryan, because he won for that food thing he did.
Jamie Oliver,
right? And he was a producer of that, and he went, yeah, well, congratulations, you're finally an Emmy winner. And he goes, yeah, but it's not. And so, somewhere in Brad's recesses of his deep dark soul, he's saying, yeah, he wish it was for him as a thespian.
Well, I'll tell you a little story, and it's kind of similar. I won't say who it was, but a couple of years ago, somebody lost at one of the awards, and they've been trying to win. It was for a performance category, and I said to the publicist on email, we were going back and forth, and I said, well, they've still got a chance on the, they could still win as a producer. Oh, that's like kissing your sister for a performer.
Oh, well, didn't that happen to Mark Ruffalo tonight? He won as a producer, right, of Normal Heart, but not as an actor. Right? We should ask Mark. Is it a decent consolation prize or?
Well, that was the other thing that kind of disappointed me. And I know Chris always likes to harp on people for this, but it really disappointed me that Martin Freeman and Benedict Cumberbatch weren't there, since they've been there for previous Emmy ceremonies, and since Martin Freeman was nominated twice, that really. I
talked to him 2 weeks ago, and I never think to ask this to anybody in any interview, but I guess because it was so close to the ceremony and I knew he was in England, I said, you're going to be at the Emmys, right? He said, oh, yes, we're flying over. So where was he?
Maybe he got that same bug that Marcus has.
Maybe he saw our odds and didn't come.
Oh, that has happened. Many a time where people go, what are my odds? I'm not. Why should I go? And then,
well, you got to think too. I mean, it's not just like driving from Malibu into the city. I mean, you're coming from London to L.A. and I know he's in a play too. I mean, he's got to. That's a big haul if you don't think you're going to win.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the ceremony itself? Seth Meyers as host. I'm curious as to your guys' thoughts.
He was as bland as weak tea. Couple of his jokes were fine, but he's not a ringmaster. He doesn't take charge of that thing and lead and put on a show. He's no Jimmy Fallon. And maybe it's bad to draw that parallel. It was interesting that Jimmy was there tonight, and of course, now that he has his own show with the Tonight Show and it's in New York, it's a little harder for him to go through all those rehearsals for the show. But look, Seth Meyers did it. I don't know. He didn't bomb, but I wasn't wowed. What did you think, Daniel?
I liked him. I mean, he's the third late night host of from NBC to host the Emmys, and I don't think he did as well as Conan O'Brien, and I don't think he did as well as Jimmy Fallon, but he did better than I was expecting. I was sort of expecting what you were saying, bland but decent. And he was a little better than that for me. I thought his monologue was really good. I thought he had that great joke at the beginning of the night about comedies entering his dramas, and I thought that was really savvy but also really funny. He had a couple of really good bits in the middle there. I like the Billy on the Street segment. I like the Q&A with the audience because
Oh, the Q&A bombed. That was so stupid.
I liked that.
It was hilarious. Everybody, I had a party. I had a little gathering at my place, and everybody was laughing during it, especially the John Hamm bit. Everybody loved it. And the bathroom key on the Emmy that Josh Charles had, that was great.
Yes, that was terrific, yeah.
What were you drinking in that party?
I liked him a lot. I liked him a whole lot.
I just think it was. You could tell he was very nervous during the monologue because he kind of looked like I thought he delivered pretty well, with the exception of how he looked, because he looked like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah, the in memoriam section was fantastic, wasn't it?
Beautifully done.
Especially after how bad last year's was. I mean, it was very, very touching. I put in my thing to Paul, though. He's writing up a good, bad, and ugly. That was probably my favorite part of the night, and it often is. But my only exception, and Billy Crystal did a wonderful job at the end of that. James Garner and Sid Caesar are in the Hall of Fame. They didn't need to be dumped in the middle of the memoriam. At least
I know.
lead off with them or close with them or do something a little longer. Or, I don't want special tributes like we had 5 or 6 last year, but they deserved a little better than that.
And they're Emmy winners. Matter of fact, Sid Caesar won tons of Emmys, and his show won Best Comedy and Variety and all those things. And, of course, James Garner pulled off a notorious upset for Maverick. And they're giants at the Emmys, and that's my complaint always about the In Memoriam, is that they do a good job, but there are various stars in these rundowns that have very distinguished Emmy history. And it's clear that the people who produce those segments are clueless.
Yeah. That was my only exception with that. I thought it was really good otherwise. There were a lot of good presenters. My only other, Emmy, you have a history to the Emmys as well and a history to TV. And to have every single presenter be basically somebody currently on TV or that has a show coming up. You don't go get a Dick Van Dyke, a Carol Burnett, Bill Cosby, Bob Newhart, Michael J. Fox. You don't have to dig way back into the 50s and 60s. Get Roseanne, get some people out there at least for 2 or 3 awards that really will get a lot of applause and tie together the history strings of this show.
Good point.
And usually they do that. Usually there'll be at least 3 or 4. And when Jay Leno is your only, I wouldn't even call him legendary, but if that's your legendary person to come out and present, that's not great.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to mention that that it was odd that no matter how many times NBC keeps firing Jay Leno, he keeps coming back to NBC. I don't know why he would have even said yes to that.
Chance to
I don't
be
know
on
why
camera.
he would. That's right. And I don't know how he gets comedy series when, there's. Well, I guess he did go in the Hall of Fame this year, so that maybe that's why they invited him to do it. But you think that would have been part of his introduction? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the latest members to join the TV Hall of Fame, Jay Leno. And the announcer never did any records tonight.
Yeah.
Aaron, while they're walking up the steps, Aaron Paul is the first 3-time winner of Best Drama Supporting Actor. It's pretty simple stuff.
I'm the person who brought that to TV. Just as you were hired last year, Chris, as a consultant to the Emmys, I've been a consultant to many award shows through the years, like Daytime Emmys, and they'll give you a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 to do this kind of research thing. And I forget which Emmys it was, and the producers came to me and said, "What, Mr. Award Show, Mr. O'Neill? What is it we should be doing?" And I said, "You got all that dead time before when the stars won, and they get up to the stage, and you never utilize it. And this is what I think you should do." And they went, "What a great idea!" So they did it. Now every award show does it. So I always get this little tingle when I see all that going. I did that.
The Globe should start doing that.
What's that?
You don't get a royalty?
No, those bastards.
I like that they do it in general. I like that they do that idea of it, but they don't. At many of the award shows, and the Emmys are as bad as anybody. They don't make it interesting. And I think, you say something interesting like that. Aaron Paul's walking up the steps, or Bryan Cranston's walking up the steps. Bryan Cranston is now tied the all-time record with Dennis Franz for wins in this category. It can be that short and simple, and the applause will get even louder.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I think it's something that's what the Golden Globes need to start doing, that because the amount of time it takes those poor television people to walk all the way from the back of the ballroom at the Beverly Hilton to the stage is just it's mind-numbing waiting for them to get up there, as we saw with Jacqueline Bisset this year in an especially bad case. But I remember there were 2 ceremonies. I think it was 2009 and 2010. They brought in John Hodgman, who was from The Daily Show. He's there. His current title is Resident Deranged Millionaire. and he would just recite like random facts about the winners, and he'd have all of them ready to go for the winners as they would go up to the podium, like about like how Bryan Cranston was first at a commercial where he played a car crash victim, and it was directed by his father. They would name these interesting facts, and at least they filled the time.
All right, here's an interesting fact for you. We're not going to, we need a real Sherlock Holmes to get to the bottom of this Sherlock mystery today, and we're not going to do it. But here's something that really absolutely makes it all the more mysterious. 2 years ago, Benedict Cumberbatch, nominated for Best Lead Actor in a Movie or Miniseries at the Emmy Awards, and you would think if he's such a slumbering giant, Daniel, this is to you. Chris said earlier, he's the most Google searched guy in the world. He's the superstar, blah, 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 blah. So if that's the case and that helped him to win, why didn't it help him 2 years ago when he was nominated for Sherlock and he lost to Kevin Costner from Hatfields and McCoys? Daniel?
That's something I was going over in my head for the whole night. Sherlock, including Creative Arts, it won 7. It's the most awarded program of the year. And the last time it was nominated for A Scandal in Belgravia, it was nominated, I believe, 13 times, and it won 0. So I just don't know.
That's fascinating.
I don't know where the love came from. I thought his Last Vow was terrific, but I didn't think it was markedly better necessarily than the last two films that they entered. So it's just like all of a sudden all the Sherlock fans decided to gang up on these Emmy panels and just it's Sherlock. It's Sherlock, just Sherlock, except for Best TV Movie apparently, where The Normal Heart still had enough support to win, even though I think was that its only award this entire year, didn't win anything at Creative Arts. So it just seems like it seems delayed in a weird way. I don't understand why this year and not 2 years ago, when I would have been even happier, because it wouldn't have taken awards away from Matt Bomer. I mean, it wouldn't have. I don't mind so much lead actor because I actually do prefer Cumberbatch to Thornton and Ruffalo's performances, but
really?
I just don't know. I don't know why now. That's the question. Why now and not then?
May I hypothesize an answer that might infuriate you, Tom?
Good. I love being infuriated. It's my natural state of order. Go ahead.
Okay, good.
And this will be the last we ever hear of Charlie.
Famous last words. Kevin Costner was better? I loved Kevin Costner at Hatfield. Fantastic.
That is. Go to your room.
No, he wasn't.
Give me up.
Kevin Costner was showier. It was the more emotive performance. And he had a rival nominee with him, which we know normally leads to winners in categories.
Benedict Cumberbatch was nominated last year for Parade's End, but lost to Michael Douglas for Behind the Candelabra. That makes sense, of course. We can see why that's the case. But anyway, we'll never figure this out, but it's fascinating. But Daniel, here's what I disagree with. I really like the Sherlock things. I get why they're so popular. They're just a lot of fun. They're cool. But performance, there's no performance. He's just acting smug and aloof and indifferent and quirky. There's nothing going on there. Come on. He doesn't deserve an acting award for Sherlock. Doesn't he always lose BAFTA too or something? I have to look here.
I don't know about BAFTA. I do think it's an acting performance. I really like his work on the show, especially it's a very fast-paced performance, a lot very wordy and high-strung, and then you have these moments where he's flustered, where I think he really shines. You see sort of this vulnerability in him, and maybe not necessarily in his Last Vow, but in the previous episode that I don't know if voters were considering, but maybe they were. He has this great speech. Again, he gives the best man speech at
that one was fantastic. Yes, I agree with that.
And
that's what I thought Martin Freeman had won for too. I got the Last Vow, I think Wedding Vow and stuff confused, and so I could understand that episode. I absolutely agree with what you're saying there, but not the other stuff.
Yeah, I'm guessing considering all of them. I mean, if you're a Sherlock fan and you're on the panel, chances are you've seen all the episodes. You're not just watching, Last Vow out of context. If you're a fan, so if you're voting for, movie miniseries actor and you see Benedict Cumberbatch, you're voting for the season. You're not just voting for the episodes. But it depends on how many people on the panel were already fans, and it seems like there probably were some.
Well, there were a lot of fans in a lot of different panels because the Emmys are fractured that way. By the way, Benedict Cumberbatch has never won the BAFTA for Sherlock. He was nominated twice and lost, so even the Brits don't think he's that great. Oh!
Well, we like Downton a lot better, too.
Yes, we love Downton.
Hey, let me, I know we're wrapping up, Tom, but I know you've got a lot of friends over at FX, and they've won acting awards over the years and won a couple of more tonight, but they win their first ever program award tonight with Fargo.
Right, I'm very happy for that. Moments before the red carpet was to begin, John Solberg from FX called me, and we were about to start that webcam, which I never did make, the pre-show anyway. But John calls me and says, "I've got a crazy thought, Tom." And I said, "What's that, John?" Because John goes way back in Emmy history. He was one of the very first campaigners. He's the person who was responsible for Michael Chiklis's win, and for the Shield, and so he has this very, very interesting history and has context for what's happening with FX now, which is that he's running communications and media for a network that doesn't seem to win awards because they have these very, very anti-snob shows like Sons of Anarchy and Hell's whatever the hell those things are that the Emmy voters will never vote for, but they finally came up with this prestige programming that fits the Emmys' elitism with Fargo, and they were like, "Yay, great!" And then what else do? They come in with these great American Horror Story things, and of course it's a genre that is traditionally scorned historically, right? I mean, Psycho was never nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The Exorcist lost to The Sting at Best, so the Emmys are the same way. So, but anyway. Putting all that aside, he calls this afternoon and says, "I have a crazy thought for you, Tom. Kathy Bates is going to win." I said, "Oh, screw you, John. She's not going to win." He says, "I figured it out." And he came up with this elaborate theory of vote splitting and the rest of it. And when she won, I went, "God damn."
He has a friend at Ernst & Young.
Apparently.
Yeah. I just had one other thought about the Sherlock loss, the Cumberbatch loss 2 years ago. I don't think, if I remember correctly, and my timing might be a bit off on this, that the full effect of the combination of Sherlock and Benedict Cumberbatch's star power was really apparent at the time when the voting was going on for that. That was the 2012 Emmys. And, of course, now, Benedict Cumberbatch has been the voice of Smaug in the Hobbit movies. He's been the villain in the most recent Star Trek movie. Now, and of course, there wasn't a clear-cut front-runner in this category, which definitely allowed probably that support and his cool factor to prevail in this.
Of course, there was a front runner. Billy Bob Thornton was almost universally picked by everybody, or they went with Ruffalo.
There was some Freeman support coming as well in the lead category. I mean, if you watch the whole thing of Fargo, and it was very easy. It's very easy to get sucked into that because at least I personally believe it was so good. You see this amazing arc that Martin Freeman has in his. When the movie miniseries category started really shaking up, I thought to myself, Martin Freeman could very well win too tonight.
Yeah. Final thoughts, Daniel.
I'm just sort of really, really excited to see what happens next year, especially because we're going to have a new winner for Best Drama Series, and we're probably going to have a new winner for Best Comedy Series because I don't see the Modern Family thing going on another year. I think this is sort of like 5 and you're done, like Frasier. It's just a matter of what's going to step up to take it.
Chris?
Well, it's not just Breaking Bad next year will be exciting. The most excited people walking out of that theater tonight were the drama people because they know that almost every category is open next year. Breaking won so many awards that it's going to be a whole slew of new winners on that side. And I agree with Daniel. I think hopefully something in the next 12 months, as much as I like modern, but enough is enough. Something needs to step forward that's a somewhat traditional Emmy kind of comedy that can start winning there.
And Charlie?
I'm so happy for Breaking Bad. I again cannot overstate how glad I am for that show. And I need to go back and watch this video, but I remember, Tom, we did a web chat, you, me, Marcus, and a couple other people from the forums right after the finale aired. And we did this big web chat, and I said, you know what? I bet you Breaking Bad's going to be out front to win drama series next year at the Emmys. And this was just 2 weeks after last year's Emmys. And you were, if I remember correctly, you were poo-pooing me the whole way, going,
Of course.
no, it's never going to happen. Dream on. Well, I dreamed on, and baby, it came true. So I am very happy tonight.
Well, I will give you those. I do remember that too. Of course, I'm so bombastic by nature that I've got.
That is against all odds to be gone from the whole universe for 11 months and then come back and win Emmys. I mean, that doesn't happen often.
In our chat room, they're saying Better Call Saul will be the big winner next year. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Dream on that one, I'm going to tell you.
Why? Why do you say that?
Because when I do our news roundups, I've already read stories that it's not going as well as anybody hopes. Now, we've heard that about. I mean, that's famously happened to some films like Titanic and Casablanca and others that sounded that way when they were in production, and then everything came out fine. But it's going to be hard to follow up the success that Breaking Bad. The critics and everybody else, the fans, are going to have high expectations.
Wouldn't it be interesting if Mad Men rallies? On that note, we will sign off and say thank you. In exciting Emmys, I'm really pissed off at my score. It's just in the toilet, but Chris did well. Some of you guys did well. We will keep talking about this for the next few days. Meantime, good night, y'all. Thanks for watching.